Welcome to
None to Mull. Mull to None.
Welcome to Mull To None, the podcast today.
And today we've got a little video on our pet decks, or at least our favourite decks that we like to play in cEDH.
Specifically cEDH, not casual.
I mean, I'm sure they could be casual if, with a bit of
No,
modifications.
Yuriko does not do casual.
Yeah, no, she doesn't. My favourite cEDH deck these days, its intent is to rival Dimir. And Thassa's and Consult and Tainted Pact, they're too quick of a way to win, so I'd like to race alongside them. This is a turbo Boros deck that attempts to polymorph Rograkh to cheat out Godo, and then Godo cheats out Helm of the Host, and then our other partner commander, Ardenn, equips Helm onto Godo and then proceeds for a win. How do I achieve that? There's 6 polymorph effects within the deck, all of which cost around 4 mana.
And none of which are blue.
None of them are blue. There's lots of instants and sorceries to make it a very, very, very interactive Boros deck.
Nice, that's what we like.
24 instants within the deck, all of which are tutorable by Sunforger. So,
which can also be equipped through Ardenn.
Which can be equipped through Ardenn to then cheat that kind of such a high equip cost.
Was it 2? 3? 2?
I think it's 3. But at the same time, why 3 when free? It has so many different polymorph effects which have their relevant tutors. Like there's a aura-based one that can be tutored for using a line tutor. There's Luca, a Planeswalker, that can be tutored for using Search of Glory. And good old Gamble. Everybody loves Gamble. Highlight and star card of the deck has to be Reality Scramble. A card that, when you get countered, when you try and polymorph Rograkh, it has a retrace. So you can just discard a land and then cast it again. And best part is, it doesn't get exiled after doing that. Such that you can somewhat do a red intuition pile using Fervent Mastery. An arguably terrible card which allows you to gamble.
Usually, yes.
Gamble 3 times. But the pile here is Reality Scramble and 2 lands. And you hope to have a land in hand when you cast it, such that if either any of those cards go to the bin, you'll have a land to then pitch to Reality Scramble.
To cast it again.
Or if you keep the land from the thing, you can then pitch that land to Reality Scramble. Or if you keep the Reality Scramble, you can Reality Scramble.
Yep,
There's a lot of fast mana in this deck. There's a lot of cards that just outright either net positive or there's somewhat of a mana battery. There are 22 sources of non-land based mana.
22?
Yes. Be it either artifacts or instant or sorcery, like Jeskers and all your rituals.
Singing Song, that sort of stuff.
And there's a bunch of effects that prevent interaction, be it like Silence, Paladin class, Defense Grid, and Conqueror's Flail, which can be attached using Ardenn. I'm very happy with the synergy of this deck. More often than not, it's one of those decks that just wins out of nowhere. It also has a bit of a problem though, of wheeling everybody. Much to my own downside, it can also strip hands on turn 1, which is very lovely.
It is.
Because I can dump all my mana out and then go, oh cool, I've got more than enough to Wheel of Fortune here. And then that's worth it, because I get a fresh grip and everybody doesn't get that turn 1 that they mulliganed for.
Yeah.
It runs Serum Powder. It is terrible, but it's great in this.
It's so bad.
There's so many reasons I could obsess over this little deck. It has been a bit of a child of mine throughout my little cEDH journey. I've even terrorized people with it in Command Fests.
Yep.
Copying their commanders, copying Yuriko's.
That was painful.
It is such a sweet gift to Yuriko 4 times off of 2.
When you end up in Boros with 3 crowns and 2 Yurikos...
that's the right way to play Boros. It's the right way to lore hold.
That is the correct way to lore hold.
Rograkh, throw him away, get a Godo, win. Most Godo players count to 11. I just need to count to 4. If you thought counting to 11 was hard, have I got the deck for you? Splash in a little bit of white. There's only 1 creature you can run in it, but that's a bit of a deck building constraint to polymorph itself.
And the deck is it's so satisfying to watch.
Yeah, I think if you see this in an upcoming video, pay attention to the timestamp and length of the video. If it's maybe a 30-second game, you'll know that I probably went first. Any deck with Godo, you've really got a hard mull for interaction, which it does suck. Because it sucks to be in that position where you're like, not only do I need to go down several cards to mulligan, I've got to use multiple cards to then deal with this opponent.
At Dockside Debacle, I was player 2. The person turn 1 was Godo. He went for a turn 1 Godo. I mulled down to 5, had Gemstone Caverns out, so I was already losing cards, and then had Force of Will, his Godo, turn 1. Like, cool, get to my first turn of the game and I've got 1 card in hand.
To be fair though, if we'd started this channel then, he would have gone to none.
He would have.
He would have.
He being me.
That's a very good... I guess that's the entire... Every pile, every kind of archetype within Rograkh Ardenn. Oh, and I get to do hammer time as well.
Good old hammer.
Smacking with a 0 drop for 10 with Menace, Trample...
First strike.
And first strike. It's juicy. There's some funny stuff you can do with Ardenn rearranging equipment, like even skull clamping an opponent's elf. I'm sorry, Anthony. So what put me onto Rograkh Ardenn was, I think I was browsing the database one time, and I saw in the Brewers Corner that there was a red-white polymorph deck with Rograkh Ardenn by a creator called Ring 13. I had a little look at the list and it looked amazing, but I've since made several changes. When you look at the Mox field link of my deck, you'll see it's gone through many different iterations, and I'm a big stickler for looking at the deck history, because you can see the decisions made by the creator or whatever. But I actually reached out to Ring 13 and got into his Discord, and I have spoken with him about some little cards that I've been testing that have been pulling their weight, and he's got his own like spreadsheets on Rograkh Ardenn, and I've got my own spreadsheets on Rograkh Ardenn, and it's one of those decks that, you know, when it's super turbo, you kind of need to like really like think about the stats of it all, of like, oh, you know, this one, it feels like there's so much like mulligan theory for it, because it's like, you will see me mulligan so many times with this deck.
This is true. I have seen you mulligan.
And I will Serum Powder.
Yep.
And I've got all these different like actions that I needed to think of beforehand, where it's like, oh, you know, do I go for the win turn one? But then again, so does many Dimir decks. It is the Boros Dimir deck.
It's fantastic.
So yeah, that's Rograkh Ardenn.
So now it's my turn. My big favorite deck is... Yuriko. I do also love Rocco, but Yuriko is my favorite deck. So I've been working on this for a while. I think I was just watching YouTube and I found it. I was like, this is great. This seems like a lot of fun. So I went onto the deck list database, found a deck list, and was like, okay, cool, play it for a little bit, get the feeling for it, then just change it a lot. And a lot I did.
The Stifles. They're one of your flavors added to the deck to somewhat set it apart. That's not on the database list.
Stifle is so underrated in cEDH. The amount
it's won you a game in the Dockside debacle.
Yep, 100%. And it's helped me out every time I've needed it. The amount of stuff in cEDH that is triggered or activated abilities, it's just amazing. And so at the moment I'm only running 3. So I'm running Trickbind, Stifle, and Defabricate. Defabricate actually does double work, because it also will counter and exile an Underworld Breach.
Yes.
I was running more Stifle effects. I was running Squelch as well. I ran it in the deck for like almost 6 months. Never cast it once. But it has the added benefit of drawing a card. As far as interaction and stuff goes, I've got... So there's 25 bits of interaction, from like counter spells, kill spells, just stuff to kind of look after the board and try and make sure my stuff sticks around and everyone else's doesn't. This is technically interaction, I think.
That is interaction.
Witness protection.
It's very good.
This card is amazing.
It's very good against Heliod players. It's very good against stacks pieces.
It's also really good against Magda.
Oh.
Or Najila. Artifacts, there's 3 artifact ramp cards, so Chromox, Lotus Petal, Mox Amber. Other than that, the only relevant artifacts are Rograkh and Sensei's Divining Top for top deck manipulation.
And that top deck manipulation wins games.
It does, particularly when you
flip some of those like heavy hitters like Shadow of Mortality and
I was going to say when you pair it with Counterbalance.
Oh, when you pair it with Counterbalance, that is a miserable time. A miserable fun time.
It is fantastic.
For Matt. It's fun for Matt.
Although even without like top deck manipulation, there is such a great feeling about someone trying to cast their Roger
and then flipping
and you flip a land.
I wonder who he's done that to several times
in one game.
This guy.
Obviously, top deck manipulation for Yuriko to get those flips going. So there's 8 sources of top deck manipulation. I've just recently added in Limdor's Vault. It was in the original iteration of the deck, but I took it out because it was a little time consuming to run.
It takes so long to resolve.
It was just a bit of slow play, so I took it out, but I'm trialing it back in just to see how it goes, see if it's still kind of very slow,
you just got to try and find like a pile in which has the heaviest total CMC, right?
Yeah, or something in particular that I'm looking for. If it's like, I need Scroll Rack right now because I've got Shadow Mortality in hand, you just keep going until you get it. As far as the Yuriko damage goes, there's 8 kind of big CMC spells. I class big 5+.
Yes, no, I'd agree.
The deck runs very smoothly on very little mana.
Yes, because you've got a pretty low CMC for all cards, excluding that pile he's got right there.
Yeah, and like Yuriko, she costs 2. She never costs more than 2, most of the time.
Yeah, provided she can activate.
Yeah, if someone casts Pithing Needle,
that's me.
Yuriko usually does not cost more than 2, so you can keep the mana base and the curve really, really low. Of all of these high CMC spells, they always cost less. So Force of Will, costs 1 life and 1 blue card. Misdirection, a blue card. Commandeer, 2 blue cards. Seagate Restoration, you can play as a land, so it doesn't cost anything.
It can cost a land drop.
Exactly. Temporal Trespass, you can just delve away 8 cards and it costs 3.
And a Yuriko if Yuriko dies.
Yep. 100%. Gush, you can just bounce 2 islands. That's also part of a Doomsday pile. Dig Through Time, again, Delve and Shadow of Mortality.
Just
the biggest
lose
hit
a lot of life.
Yeah, if you've been hit multiple times and your life total is 27 or less, Shadow costs black for a 7/7, which you can just start wailing on people with.
But it is more effective to just continually flip him over and over.
It is. Yeah, just scroll rack him back to the top of your library and just keep hitting for...
You did that at Command Fest. I saw that. I recorded that.
It was fantastic.
On top of the silence as well.
It was so satisfying.
Sure. Activate Ginger's ability, make him unlockable. And then get to Yuriko. Yuriko trigger on the stack. Activate Scroll Rack. Hail Shadows.
The other main thing that Yuriko needs is evasive creatures. So I've got 10 different sources of evasion or evasive creatures. I say that because Shizo technically counts as giving Yuriko evasion, because it gives her fear. But then Gingerbrute, fantastic. Best 1-drop in the game. And I'm going to say that in literally every video, because it is. Has haste and you can give it evasion.
I am announcing my departure from Mull To None.
But I still get Gingerbrute, so it's fine. Yeah. Don't worry about that. So Signal Pest has evasion. Phyrexian Walker... Okay, Phyrexian Walker and Memnite don't have evasion. They're just super cheap creatures that you can cast.
You get them out
for free.
turn 1, and then they're a possible Yuriko.
Yeah. Tetsuko Umezawa gives all of the main creatures evasion, because they can't be blocked if their power or toughness is 1 or less.
Yeah.
So it just turns everything into unblockable, which is fantastic. Dalthy Voidwalker, fantastic value card, and it can't be blocked. Obviously, we also need separate ninjas. Now, I am running a little light on this just because I was running a little bit more of a hard control shell. So I only actually have 8 other ninjas. So that's including changelings like Moth Dust Changeling, Changing Outcast, and Universal Automaton. And Phantasmal Image technically can also be as well. But that's normally for copying value pieces from other people.
Like a Dockside.
Like a Dockside or a Stacks piece. Always good to have another Draenith.
Yeah.
Because that way you're trying to get rid of theirs. But if you've got your Phantasmal Image as a copy, and most of these ninjas have really cool abilities on themselves. So Ingenious Infiltrator, every time a ninja hits, you draw a card. There's ones that you can loot, you can make treasures. Sakashima's Student, if someone else has a Dockside that's going to get you at least like 4 treasures and another ninja, you can just loop Sakashima's Student, entering each time as a copy of Dockside and get infinite treasures. And then I've just added in Mist Syndicate Naga, which when it deals damage, it creates a copy of itself. So more and more and more ninjas. On to the win cons of the deck. Obviously, Yuriko is a win con in and of herself with pretty much anything. Shadow Mortality is the easiest way. But then it also runs... You can't have a blue-black deck. Like, I cannot think of a reason to not run Thassa's Oracle in a Dimir deck. So Thassa's Oracle, Demonic Consultation, and Titan Pact. You can't not include them.
The classic Dimir.
And they're just a really good fallback. Doomsday is kind of there as a almost backup win con. I've actually won through it once, which was really good. And there is multiple Doomsday piles with things like Gush, Gitaxian Probe, Street Wraith, all that sort of stuff. Village Rites is a really good one. Village Rites also does double duty, because if you've got Yuriko out but no one has any good... Like, if everyone's got good blockers and you can't get through with your Yuriko, drop in an evasive creature, sack your Yuriko to Village Rites, and then ninjutsu her back in so you can get that trigger again. Village Rites, great include. The other thing that I quickly wanted to touch on was the mana base, which I did change around a little bit. The main one that I wanted to talk about was adding in Sunken Hollow, which is not normally a cEDH card. People don't usually run the Tango lands. I found myself that I kept running out of fetchable targets because the deck runs like as many fetches. I'm pretty sure it's all the fetches that it can run. It'll run them. So I just kept running out. So I wanted another one in there that could potentially enter, if depending on the board state, it could potentially enter untapped, or it's just that's the first target that I go and get. On the end step, crack, go and get Sunken Hollow. That's the big one that I wanted to touch on. Actually, one other thing as far as the land base goes, always run basics. Whatever deck you're running, put in basics. Not many, just a sprinkling, because if someone, Assassin's Trophy, Path to Exile, all of the stuff that'll let you go and fetch a land, if you're not running basics, you've just shafted yourself.
Yeah. And
so I always run basics. I think that's everything for Yuriko. I mean, the interaction suite is pretty it's just the usual stuff. Lots of counter spells, lots of cheap and free counter spells. Yeah, there's nothing too really out of the ordinary. That's pretty much everything.
If you want to give these decks a try, we'll have our Moxfield links to them linked below. So if
our own personal list.
Yes. So if you want to give them a try or see what we've done to decide for a little specific changes, because they certainly will change with time.
100%. As
these
bigger
decks.
And better cards are printed.
And even if we want to like spice things up, because the meta itself shifts quite rapidly as I create more and more Stacks players. Sorry, I'm not. I love Stacks so much. We'd recommend to either look at the relevant discords for each of them.
Yeah.
Because there is a polymorph discord that both the Rograkh and original creator Ring 13 has made alongside Doot to create and assist the deck creation of various polymorph decks. So you can either shoot them a message or myself. Keep in mind, my polymorph experience is in Rohgahh and Ardenn or Rograkh Tevesh. So either turbo win the game or turbo stacks. Polymorph's just good to turbo. What would you recommend for your list?
If you're interested in playing Yuriko, there is the entry in the decklist database, and that is monitored by, among other people, Strix. I think there's about 5 people that keep that up to date.
I think it's the entire Yuriko Discord itself, like coming together and voting on it.
Yeah, so it's modded by I think about 5 people.
Technically, you've had an effect on the choices in that deck.
I have actually. They were talking about adding in like Stifle and that sort of stuff.
Nice. I imagine you would have voted no.
Yeah, don't run more Stifle. Don't run it. That's my job. That's mine. So that list is curated by a couple of people from the Yuriko Discord, but it's voted on by all of the Yuriko players. They all come together. They all vote and say this is where we think the meta is going. Yes or no to these cards, and they make the changes appropriately. But yes, if you want to give mine a go, mine will be in the down in the description. Yep. If you want, you can jump on the database and find the list over there.
Comment on the deck list themselves on Moxfield is a pretty good way to reach the
creator,
us, I guess, directly for deck list suggestions, or if you have any real questions, I'd suggest you go to your relevant cEDH Discord. Yep. Depending on which country you're in, there should be some form of community for it. Just throw a list in there, or even you could paste ours in there and get some comments on that and see what they think.
Yeah. If you have any cards that you think we could add in or you think might do well in our decks,
you can honestly comment them down below.
Yeah, chuck them down below, chuck them in the Moxfield or whatever, and we'll have a look at them, see what we think. We don't actually know all of the cards in Magic. Always looking for more help.
And who knows, you might be lucky enough to see within the deck histories of our pages, around the time of your comment, possibly that card in the list.
Yeah.
Who knows?
You never know.
You never know.
Well, I think that's about us.
Yeah.
That is our decks. That kind of sums up who we are. I am Demir Control. You are Turbo Stacks.
I like doing strange things.
You do like doing strange things.
So that about wraps up our lovely little hyperfixations on our own decks.
On our favourite decks, yeah.
Well, they're not short-lived. We've been pretty much sticklers for these lists for quite some time now.
I mean,
I think we'll continue to do so.
Yeah. I mean, I've been running Yuriko for at least the entirety of this year.
Yeah, and as have I with Rograkh. And I even we took both of these lists to the Dockside debacle in January. We even played in a pod against each other.
In round 1.
Yeah, in round 1.
Yep,
and Stifle stopped him from losing and arguably won him the game as a result.
Stifle did win the game.
Who knows? Maybe we'll take this to another tournament. I suspect you probably will with Yuriko, but who knows? It might not be that list as it is currently as of recording. There'll probably be a little changes. Who knows? What if your commented suggestions could help us bring us to the first place? That'd be nice. Or plunge us to the bottom.
Or that. That's us. That's our little ranting on our favourite decks at the moment. Happy ranting.
Yep. If you could give us like a little like, comment, and subscribe, that'd be great. We are really genuinely looking forward to those comments about additions to our decks.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I'm a firm stickler for like any data, any suggestions could help me further
crowdsourcing.
Better. Yeah, of course. Well, further assist me in like either making my deck better or invite additional thought to my thinking process in how I'm evaluating each card. Nice. And I think you'd feel the same.
100%. Yeah. I know there are cards out there that people run in Yuriko that I don't. The decklist database has a lot of different cards, so I'm always open to hearing what people are playing in their Yuriko decks, or kind of going, oh, what about this one? Have you thought about this?
And we have made specific choices within our decks based on our meta. So your suggestions could be more relevant based on your meta. We'd love to know what you think.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
At the end of the day, have a good one, guys.
And we'll see you in the next one.
I'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again for coming out. And don't remember.